Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Against the Grain, my Supercoach channel. I'm the 8-Bit Reptile, and I just thought it was high time to do a bit of a team update because, a bit more information has come out across Supercoach news, and also some of my picks are getting swag jacked by the greatest Supercoach community and content creators. So I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity to hear it here first and follow along as I've been thinking, because I've had this team sort of bed down. Obviously everything evolves, but I've had my team bed down for about a week or so now, and I just wanted to get these changes and picks out to you. Also, I need to mention and say a big thank you to everybody that has liked, subscribed, and watched my video. We're up over 100 subscribers now, which was just an unbelievable result for me this early, and I just wanted to thank you, the viewer, for your participation. Okay, so I'm going to do some outs first, just to get and as I'm taking these players out of my side, I'll just sort of explain why I'm removing them from my team, and instead of just going and putting in a straight replacement, because obviously money is a factor as you're changing people out. I also just want to go ahead and explain my ins one by one as well. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take out the guys that are staying in the team. So this is where I left it last video. Anyway, this is my overall structure of my team. And a couple of guys to come out that are going immediately back in, rather than doing a bit of a substitution magic. I thought I'd just remove them and then just pop them back in where they go. So Reedy, Blackiston, and Marshall, they will remain in my side, but obviously in different positions. Okay, so if I just go into the outs, Kalani White is coming out of my side. I'm not running Kalani there. Reason being is that I'll take the opportunity now to put Reedy in that spot, because it's obviously the only spot he can go into. Just in this position here specifically, it might not end up being Reedy. There's a couple of other players, I think, in McAndrew from Adelaide, and also name escapes me. I think it's Mitchell Edwards for Geelong. At this exact price range, could also be coming into the side depending on opportunity. So I'm just I probably won't need that swing forward ruck position, even though CDT is going to stay in the side. So Reedy goes in there anyway. So that's my thinking there. And also on the rucks, I played around with a few different iterations of my ruck line. This one primo and then trying to get by as cheaply as I can, it kind of plays into the early buy structure as well, where I think I can further get away with this, because we're only playing top 18 in rounds 2, 3, and 4. So that means that I don't need anyone scoring. Yes, it's an advantage to have it, but I don't need anyone scoring in that position. I can make up for it with other positions on the ground, and yeah, so hopefully we get away with it. I think it's a bit of a wish at the moment, but I think we can get by. Anyway, another guy that's coming out of the side is Billy Cootie. Just no news on him in any of the track watches. And when it comes to rookies, no news is actually bad news. You want to hear guys getting on the radar. These are guys trying to break into a side. So for that reason, Billy comes out. Lockie Carmichael as well, if I could just locate him, has sustained an injury. So he's no longer eligible for our starting team. I think, and also Fincher, again, is another player that's kind of no news is bad news. And the other one is, just as I look here, is actually Josh Lindsay from West Coast. So he's another guy that is just not getting any kind of hype or traction. It's not to say he's completely out of the side, but yeah, most likely not in at the moment. Also, Finlay McRae, was expecting news, expecting something out of the Eagles camp in regards to him. He's just not getting any kind of mention. So he's gone. And Draper is going to be moving into that swing spot for us. Draper was injured. He's probably the pick that I like the least, or I'm least settled on. But we do need that midfield forward swingman in this position. So for that reason, he goes in that swing spot. Finlay's out, and I'll just look over the rest of them. I think that's it for the rookies. Sharp tracking nicely. Jager or whatever is going to be in our side. This Moniz Wakefield still in the front running there, but we're waiting for more news out of the Melbourne camp, and obviously Jai Sarong, we feel like he's going to play, so he'll stay in the side for now. Okay, so moving on. First out of my team. Now this kills me because I really like this pick, but with how fast and loose I am playing with the ruck line, I just need a touch more certainty around this pick. So for that reason, Luke Jackson's coming out of my team. There's just too many questions around what's going to happen with Sean Darcy, who I think I called Sam Darcy last. I can't remember. Forget which one I'm getting wrong or right. Just with Darcy, just with Mason Cox coming over to Fremantle, there's just too many questions around what Luke Jackson, what his ruck time is actually going to be. I really like the pick, and if Jackson were to get a mid-ruck DPP later in the season, I would really consider him for that. I would take him actually as a midfielder. But just for now, just the ruck line is thin enough as is. So I don't need to. I can't afford to take him there and fail. I can't afford for that pick to fail. So for that reason, he's out for now. Jasper Fletcher is another guy that has come out of my team. I don't mind that Jasper pick. It's a bit risky, but for me, I've gone for more of a solid upgrade pick in that spot, which I'll reveal a bit later on. But that's the only reason why Jasper's out. Sam Banks is also out of the team, and now there's a bit of a rotating kind of selection here, between Banks, between McKercher, between Newman, Bergman, and we'll discuss that a bit down the line as well, but for right now, Banks is out of the team. Okay, these two, another couple that kill me. I don't really love this, but I am taking Errol Goulden. And this one especially, I love this Fiorini pick. I think it's a great pick, but it come down to money with some of the other moves I wanted to make. And also, for the same reason I'm kind of fading the rucks this season, I'm also fading wingman a little bit. I just want to see the evolution of these rule changes, and if teams are less prepared to kind of swing out to the wing, move the footy around, is it going to be a little bit more straight down the corridor? Or, if it does go out to the wing, are teams going to evolve to where, they're willing to concede a free kick by kicking to touch and turning the ball over and then immediately going to defense? And I think that the wings especially might be a little bit open to giving away needless frees or professional free kicks, and that might hurt their scoring. And also the maybe a more direct corridor style of football might be what we're in for. Again, pure speculation, but I don't want any wings in my team until I see what's going on there. Okay, moving on. Kasai Pickett out of my side. Another pick, wasn't super solid on, but there's a couple reasons. For my team, on a personal level, it's structural. The guy that I'm bringing in to replace Kasai Pickett fits in, to some of my needs and wants. But from a overall Supercoach point of view, this Melbourne puzzle over who's going to get these roles and this minutes and all this stuff with the departure of Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca is one that I'm kind of not open to solving. I can't solve this puzzle, so I'm just removing myself from it altogether. So just also on Pickett, looking at his numbers from last season, I'm not sure if there is going to be any more opportunity if he didn't already have that improved opportunity. And, some of his numbers just weren't quite up to scratch for what you wanted. So I no longer really see the upside in taking him. So I'm just off that pick for that reason. Okay. So moving into the ins. So as we said before, there's this whole issue behind this mid-priced back line or back position, and it's between Bergman, McKercher, Banks. I'd probably throw Newman in that area as well, and you absolutely have to nail this pick. Now, the reason I've gone off Banks and off others is because the jump that they'll require for this pick to be successful it's a really huge jump. So these guys, the ones that I mentioned, are actually around 50th overall in backline. For this pick to work, they would need to be somewhere around the top 12, and these guys are actually closer to like a Zach Reed from Essendon than they are to breaking into I think it's around the Josh Dacos kind of level of scoring output. Now, the only one, so for the same reason that people are worried about role change, and I'm going to talk about role change a bit later on as well, about Bergman going into the midfield. He might be going into the midfield to be a tagger for all we know. He might not actually, make good of that opportunity. Rosie might end up being the one that goes into the midfield. So for that reason, we're off Bergman. Banks as well, I'm not sure if he makes that leap from, around 50th to that top 12 in order for this pick to be successful. Newman, we're worried about just his injury. So for that reason, we are back landed on Colby McKercher. McKercher, out of all of those players, is the only one that has an actual history of doing what we need him to do in order for this pick to be successful. And that was that stint, after the bye rounds where he went back. And now, by all reports, he's settled into that back line again, that back role. So for that level of certainty, we're going to take him in this spot. Okay. Moving on, I've chosen to stick with Duff CDT here in the ruck. He's getting some good reports. I was playing with changing it out to a Toby Conway and putting more money in the ruck, but as I explained before, with the early buy rounds, I'm happy to short in the rucks while I sort of bide my time with some other picks. So that leads us to the other ruck role, and I'm taking Tim English here. Similar price to Jackson. I just think there's, if Tim English plays, he's a ruck. He's a number one ruck. They don't, they might bring other guys in, maybe a Fraser, maybe a Sam Darcy, goes in the ruck for a little bit to give him a chop out. But English plays ruck. He plays number one. Certainty around that pick. Should score well. Should benefit from the rule changes. So Tim English becomes our pick there. Okay. So another pick I wanted to sort of discuss was this Will Brodie pick. So Will Brodie is in 54% of sides right now, and he's added some bulk this year. He's also looking okay on the track. But for me, I feel this is a trap pick. So similar to last year, there was guys that started. I think Will Brodie will start and will play early. But whether or not he'll play enough games to kind of see a reasonable, and he'll score well in those games, don't get me wrong as well, but I just don't think he plays enough footy this year to warrant taking him at rookie price. If you think back last year, now it's a little bit different because he is a veteran, but if you think back last year, we had guys like Camporeale, Sardis, Jack Hudson or Hutch. I think I'm not getting that right, but there was someone from Melbourne as well who got early games, and we all jumped on them as opening picks, thinking, they'll get the cash rise. And then there was other guys, throughout the season, like Carroll for Carlton, even O'Sullivan for North Melbourne, and O'Driscoll for Fremantle. They just didn't get enough cash quick enough in order to justify the pick. So I think Will Brodie is in that same camp. And I'm not taking Will Brodie this year, even as a starter. Even if he starts and I'm watching him getting, 70s and 80s, which is going to hurt, I don't think he lasts in that Port Adelaide side when you're Ollie Wines and they figure out this structure with their midfield, who's in there. So for me, he's out. Now, the player I would say to take in this position is actually Patrick Rechko for Richmond at 119,900. A lot of good reports out of the Richmond camp in regards to him. He'll probably get the wing role. I know we said we didn't want wings, but $119,000 rookie wing is okay. And he's probably number one, and I would be advising you to take from a Supercoach perspective. But because this is against the grain, and I've already said do not take Richmond and Carlton rookies, I'm actually moving away from Rechko as well and going with the guy that I have heard good things out of West Coast camp, and that's Harry Schoenberg at 119,900. Great reports coming out, multiple reports coming out of West Coast that Harry Schoenberg is really in line and has gone past even a Devon Robinson, who's remaining in my team. Certainly gone past Finn McRae, who we've heard nothing on. I like Schoenberg as a pick over Dersma as their number one pick. So for that reason, he's my rookie that I'm taking there instead of Brodie. But you could take both. Okay, another bloke we're taking, and another reason why I chose to move on from Kalani White is Oliver Greaves. Now, I only really want to have room in my team for one $99,100 selection. Unlikely to play, but Greaves is getting some notice on the track. Budget reasons, I have to have at least one player on at 99k. I can't afford anybody else at the moment. So for structure and for a little bit of notice, Greaves gets into my team, hoping he'll get it. He'll not expecting him to play round one, hoping he'll get a selection down the line. And trying to maximize really how many players I can get, pretty early on in the season. Now, in saying that, with the 18 top players, I'm going to give myself some time to really key in on who those guys are that are going to play as far as rookies, because that's when the price rises will start to come in, and I really want to. I don't want to overreact to guys that are getting selected round one, especially on a rookie front. Yes, you want to get more right than wrong, but I'm really going to have a look, because the other thing I'll note here is in some of the other podcasts that I've watched, they had to actually look at the winning team and their starting side. And if you looked at their starting side, you would say there's no way they won the competition. But what I gauge from that is actually the trading aspect of this game is so important, and you can start with a few more picks than you would like on the wrong side of the ledger and actually make it back if you make good trades. So I'm leaning into more good trades this year, really nailing my trades and sticking fat with some of my selections rather than being so reactive and making three trades and a boost every week. So enough rambling about that pick. Okay, so a question I wanted to sort of pose to the community was, a lot of guys are getting faded because of role changes out of the back line into a midfield role. So, if we think about Bergman, who's actually seen as a positive move from midfield from backline to midfield, people are shorting Tom McCarthy from West Coast because he's moved from a back line to a midfield role. I don't really understand why the same questions aren't being brought up around NASA's, that's Nasiah Wanganeen-Malira's role change. I know he's a cut above most players in the league, but surely there's some questions around opportunity, easy ball, kick-outs, attention from the other team with him moving into the midfield. I just don't understand the hypocrisy between why we look at it as a positive for some and not a detraction from other players. So for that reason, though, a guy that we know that is absolutely staying in the back line is having that role and is not being picked really that highly is Jack Sinclair. Now, if you look at the scores where Naz moved up the ground for extended periods of time, Sinclair absolutely feasted from a scoring point of view. This guy is, as it stands, is only in 8% of teams, which for me is just crazy. Like, he absolutely could be the number one defender in Supercoach this season. And for me, he's the pod of all pods. And I would be picking Sinclair over Naz all day long this season because of that role change. On one hand, because of the questions of the role change from Naz, and then also what that Naz role change does for Sinclair's scoring potential. You're getting the best end on both ends of the pendulum there, and I'm taking Jack Sinclair 100%. Okay, so moving into the forward line now. Now, this is a pick that I'll probably get roasted for a little bit, but I'm actually taking Riley Thilthorpe. I'm taking Riley Thilthorpe in my forward line. Now, reason being is he's definitely in line for a top 6 forward position. The other pick I would consider here is actually Darcy as well, at a similar price. Sam Darcy's 517.6. Riley Thilthorpe is 525,400. So I'm leaning more towards Thilthorpe because I think they're similar in that they're not just key position forwards. They get up the ground, they're mobile, they're huge. With the rule changes, with it more direct, we should see some more long kicking into the forward line. And I think someone like a Thilthorpe becomes that lead-up target that everybody wants. Also, there's questions around Adelaide's ruck at the moment. Riley O'Brien doesn't look to be someone that's going to benefit from these ruck changes, which is another reason why McAndrew has sort of come into people's thinking around who will be that number one ruckman. I think that Thilthorpe will do enough pinch hitting in the ruck and possibly, this is a bit out there, but possibly even, being a starting ruck at times for Adelaide or the primary ruck, that he will actually get dual position fairly early on. And then hopefully that will kind of, from my point of view, structure, he's a better pick for me potentially than Pickett is for the structure of my side, getting that dual position ruck and possibly being able to fix that ruck for more of a medium term for me. Okay, so that's why I'm going with Thilthorpe. Who else we got? Okay, so another forward that's coming in, and this has also probably become one of the worst kept secrets in Supercoach, is that Connor McDonald for Hawthorn has moved into a full-time midfield role at the team. I did some number crunching sort of on some midfield numbers based on another pick that I'm going to share with you guys in a bit. But McDonald only in 6% of sides, so still a nice little pod for everybody. The other one to consider here is, at this sort of price range, is Josh Rochelle as well. I always think, got his name right. He's in 7% of teams, so he's actually slightly higher pick rate than Connor McDonald. I think that Rochelle probably shares this role over the season, as Rankin comes back. Curtin's obviously not coming back for a while. Draper has joined the main group. So, I think there's more questions around Rochelle's actual ability to get that midfield time. Great player, very highly skilled. But for me, McDonald is the better pick. He's definitely moved into that midfield, that full-time midfield role. And we like that pick. And another great pod. So I'll just fill in a couple of others that were already in the team. Todd Marshall now moves to my flex. We're liking that Marshall in the backline role. Track watches, he's taking a lot of kick-ins in a lot of the drills and the match sims. So that's a great sign for us. And I'm still persisting with the Blackiston pick. Similar to how I feel about Thilthorpe, I think Blackiston can get that early DPP change and will allow me to, if Nick Bryan comes back just around the role change, I can just straight swap Blackiston for I can move Blackiston into my ruck and then swap him out for Bryan, or keep him at R3, or just depending on how he goes. But that's another structural decision. I think Blackiston can score quite well early on in that primary ruck role at that 300k kind of mark. He's at 295, 500. I'm liking that pick anyway. So just to bring in some more rookies now, because everyone's looking for rookies, and maybe looking for rookies that aren't on a hell of a lot of teams at the moment. But I have got, who have I got? So I've been talking about this bloke for a while. No, we won't bring him in just yet. Let's move to the forwards. Okay. Now, these are two picks. They're not on a lot of teams at the moment. But the first one is Harvey Harrison. He's only on 3% of teams for Collingwood. He's looking really good on the track. Another guy that might not get, round one play, but certainly in line for a game this season. And even if he doesn't start, I might just hold on to this pick, knowing that Harrison is in line to get a game. But the one we really want to highlight here is Lockie Doverston for North Melbourne. Now, he's in 8% of teams. His pick rate is as more and more news comes out, his pick rate is starting to climb. But Doverston will definitely get a game at North Melbourne this year, and probably get an early game as well. He's well in line for selection round one. And the other guy in the back line as well, with the Carmichael injury, is a Lucky Jarks. So Lucky goes into the back line for me, 119,900. Looks to be getting those Carmichael reps now that Carmichael is injured. So he comes into our team. Who else have we got here? Okay, so I'll just bring in my next pick, and I mentioned this guy that I've wanted this player in my team, but couldn't make it work with the money earlier, as I just misspell his name. Thank God what I wrote into the search engine didn't come up then, but it's Jacob Farrow. So Jacob Farrow, again, is another guy. There's more and more injuries coming out of Essendon camp. Farrow's not a name that's getting overly mentioned, but I think he will get a spot. I prefer this pick over the Fincher pick, just from likelihood to get a job. But I also want that swing guy, that defense, to sort of line up with Rosie, so I can swing the magnets around a little bit. Use him in flex if I need to. But Farrow is a guy that's in our team. Okay, so this is the prize pick of this video. And now I wanted to get this out because this guy is still 0% picked. Okay, so like I said, I did a little bit of a deep dive on some midfield stats, and what this guy's become is the number 2 option in the midfield at his specific club. Now, what does that mean? So he carried an average of under 80 last season, played 23 games, but he's definitely the number 2 selection now. So I went through each team. Now, I did remove this player's team from the averages, and I also took West Coast out of the average midfield scoring averages. Okay, so what I did was I took the number 2 spot from each team from last season and did an average of that score. Now, I took out West Coast, as I said, because they're shambolic. Who was their top 2? Might be Harley Reid. Graham was there. Tim Kelly's taken a massive step backwards. McCarthy probably steps into the number 1 spot there, and then Elliot Yeo as well. So their average didn't really line up with anything. And also, because this guy's replacing the average player at his own club, I also didn't add their average. I might edit that ramble out. But anyway, so the average over the remaining 16 clubs for the number 2 spot in the midfield was 102 points per game. The lower end of that was sort of Richmond at 90. There was nobody lower than that. But also the high, and I wouldn't expect this player to get up to the higher end, was 114 points per game as the second best midfielder in a club. So anyway, enough preamble. This player, 0% owned, heard it here first, number 2 midfielder in their specific club is Ned Long at 420,000. I think this is an absolute bargain pick. I think he makes the average, of number 2 midfielders in the competition, somewhere around that 102 mark. He may even outstrip that. Collingwood need to move past Pendlebury, need to move past Sidebottom, who were on the lower end of averages for number 2 midfielders per club. And Ned Long absolutely moves into my side. And it's a heard it here first pick. Okay, so with that in mind, we've taken a fair bit away from our midfield. I feel like we've bolstered our back line, and we've certainly bolstered our forward line. I'm really happy with this forward line. I think I'm only maybe 1 pick away from actually having, everybody in the top 10 from the get-go. That's a big call, but I really think that I have sort of bed that down between 1 or 2 maybe picks. We've got some good rookies here, which we haven't dived into the Richmond, Carlton, Essendon a little bit more kind of doldrums. And we've also, with this structure, we've got 65,500 left in the kitty that we can upgrade as we go, as rookies come in and out. So there you have it, guys. Let me know in the comment section what you think about these adjustments. I would say definitely take Sinclair in your team, in your starting team. If you take nothing else away from this video, Sinclair in, McDonald definitely has that midfield, and a sneaky against the grain favourite here with Ned Long, the number 2 guy at Collingwood behind Dacos, and in front of the other Dacos as their midfield preference. All right, guys, I'll sign off there, but thanks for watching. Again, thanks to everybody that takes the time to subscribe and to also comment in the videos. A lot of the feedback from the community really does drive the next video. So thanks again, guys. I've been the 8-Bit Reptile. You've been amazing. See you later.